Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Blue Collar Sports Talk. We got a December 1st edition, Thursday. Not as cold as it has been, but it's still chilly here in the great state of Nebraska. Got my hombres, James
Morning.
and Roger.
Good morning.
Roger was telling us jokes while we were trying to test out the mics, and he kills me with this three-legged dog joke. Looking for the man who shot my paw.
My paw.
Let's go right into University of Nebraska football. We hired a new coach.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you guys feel about Matt Rule?
My enthusiasm's up. Like I said, when we talked about it during the season and all the talk was, all the sidebars at work, who. I wanted five experience. I wanted coaching experience. And I think we got it, I'm not saying he's a savior. We won't know. But at least we have someone with a lot of experience that hopefully puts the right staff together.
Roger?
Yeah, I obviously the last few coaches we've hired, we've became disappointed with them. So, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, it'll be nice to see who he hires as his assistants. He's hired this Sattersfield for offensive coordinator. And the last two games of the year, South Carolina hung up 95 points against Tennessee and Clemson, or Tennessee and gosh, I can't remember the other team's name. But anyway, he hung up 95 points against the last two games of the year, and
over 400 yards offense.
Yeah. So.
And I think that comes down to Rattler playing better because the first 5 or 6 games, Rattler was a turnover machine.
Yeah.
So you really don't get your offense moving. But once he clicked or whoever clicked, I read that Casey's interviewed already with or talked to him or whatever and really liked how South Carolina ran their offense. So that's a big plus, too, if he stays around.
Yeah, I've seen that he's bringing quite a few of the people that he's already worked with in the
Yes.
past, the people that he's either worked with at Temple, Baylor, and then also he took them along for the ride.
Yes.
What a ride it was at Carolina. Panthers. So it'll be interesting. I'm with Roger. It's kind of wait and see. I'm more on the doubtful side, not for the fact that he's a bad coach. He's not, but this is a crazy league we're in. Moving from the Big 12 for Nebraska to the Big 10 was an eye-opener as far as the defense, what you need to do week in, week out against some of the top teams in the nation. And the Big 12 is great. I don't know if they're there as far as the Big 10 and the SEC because we're kind of moving towards that top 2.
Right. And they want to be part of the top 2. It wants to be SEC Big 10, not ACC Big 12 Pac or whatever. But
yeah, it was Clemson. They hung up 94 points the last 2 games. So
Clemson and Tennessee, was it? That South Carolina just demolished?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
There at the end, Rattler just played out of his mind. So, and again, I think was that, hey, look what I can do as an offensive coordinator because Trev Alberts was watching who Matt Rule will probably bring on.
Yeah.
Or is Spencer Rattler going, oh, NFL draft's coming up soon. I got to show out.
Well, the writing on the wall. I was kind of surprised they didn't move on from him. I didn't watch either games. I don't know if he got benched a game and came back. At Oklahoma, he had that big immature sideline when they benched him because he was playing bad. And he's grown. He's obviously older. He matures a little bit more and realizes, it's about the team. But like I said, South Carolina was supposed to come in and push, in the ACC, and they struggled mightily.
But they upended some teams. So
right, yeah. At the end of the season, they finally started playing like we were expecting.
They're SEC.
I apologize. Thank you.
It's getting closer to the Heisman Watch, so I'm going to put a link in there for an article that has some of the Heisman Watch players. But also, it's Big Ten Honors Week. I'll leave a link. Football honorees and volleyball honorees were also named. Maddie Kubik was first team Big Ten. Outside hitter Lexi Rodriguez was first team libero.
Of course.
Second team Caitlin Ord and Becca Alec, true freshman Becca Alec.
Oh, nice.
And Wisconsin and Ohio State both had 3 selections for the first team. They also had a number of selections for the second team. So I'll leave a link in the description for all those honorees. Also, the football, we had Garrett Nelson.
Beast.
Yeah.
Just a beast.
Just an edge rusher beast. You're right. He made the second team along with wide receiver Trey Palmer. And
It's kind of surprising. I mean, I know the Big Ten's loaded, especially over there in the East. How Garrett Nelson doesn't make the first team?
Michigan's defense, Ohio State's defense.
Right.
There's a lot of great players out there. To be honored for the second team, I think, is huge for the amount of players that are out there because he is a beast.
But on that D line, that's all the team's worried about. We just need to slow him down, double, triple, chip him, whatever, because he made. I mean, good grief, at the line of scrimmage, behind, down the field, he's making. Garrett Nelson was, and anyone watching, like, dude, if you put him on Michigan, Ohio State, one of those teams, he's starting for them also.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Right. It'll be fun to cross our fingers and hope Matt Rule gets it done next year already with the people that he has coming in. So it'll be fun to watch.
I do like what he's saying in the trenches.
Oh yeah.
He's talking O-line, D-line, this is where it starts. We got to get this, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you can have the best five-star running back, quarterback, receivers all you want, and defensive backs and safeties. But if your trenches are weak, obviously we've seen what can happen. So, yeah, if he can build up those two lines, that's huge.
Yeah, and I don't know what the Big Ten West is going to bring next year, but we all know how terrible it was this year.
Right.
I mean, is it going to be too crazy for him to come in and go 7-5 or 8-4 right out of the gate?
No.
I mean, if the Big Ten
schedule's
West,
pretty favorable. Yeah.
So
Roger is leading us right into our next segment. Purdue, Michigan, one of the championship games that's coming up, and Purdue could play spoiler, much like Michigan did to Ohio State. But
much like Nebraska did to Iowa.
Yeah.
Just had to slip that in there.
Yeah.
yeah.
So on Saturday, 8-4 Purdue is playing for the Big Ten championship against number 3 Michigan. The line has moved a little bit. I looked at the beginning of the week Monday, and it was at 16. Now it's at 16.5 with overs at 52. Playing in a neutral site, Indianapolis.
Inside. No weather. I feel for Purdue in this game. Again, it'll be first half, if you're a betting man, whatever, depending on the numbers, but you probably go Purdue first half. It'll be close.
Yeah.
But, like I've been saying last 4 or 5 weeks, Michigan in the end of the third and the fourth quarter, like look what they did to Ohio State.
Yeah.
They whatever adjustments or whatever their players finally find that groove or figure out the guy across them what they're doing, they're doing it.
Is Michigan playing the best football in the nation?
I think
the
so.
best team?
Gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, hard to say they're not.
I hope Michigan and Georgia can get to the championship. But
And just think 2 years ago, they were calling for Jim Harbaugh's head.
Right. So
they wanted him out.
I'm glad you said that, and I'm not trying to bring in Ohio State because I don't like them anyway. But Ohio State loses 2 in a row. Now everybody's screaming, get rid of Day, bring him back Urban Meyer. I'm like, Harbaugh lost 7 straight to Ohio State. Yes, the fans are screaming for it. Hey, we got to move on. He can't beat, the Buckeyes. He wins it last year. Oh, okay. And he wins again this year. And I'm like, it's just like the Tom Osborne.
He's beat him pretty good last 2 years.
Right.
17 points and 22 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Decisively, right.
Yeah.
And let's not fire Day. I mean, if he does, let him come here. But, I mean, give me a break. Harbaugh's obviously got his team clicking a little bit more. Stroud, unfortunately, lost the Heisman now.
That's how fans are.
You're right.
The fans wanted to fire Tom Osborne when they didn't make the 2-point conversion. It
didn't
bounced off.
Just kick it. Yeah.
So
and then we
like
held
that.
on to him and look what he did for us. Now we revere him as one of our greats.
Yeah.
But you were ready to throw him in the fire and not even let him finish.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bad bounce.
I see
really
Michigan
is.
completely destroying Purdue.
The
16.5 points I think is low, and I think even the overs are low because the amount of points that they put up on Ohio State shows how dominant they can be.
And just running the ball.
And it sounds like we're all taking Michigan.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I'm taking Michigan to win, but 2 weeks ago we watched Michigan probably got really lucky to escape Illinois. I think Purdue could do the same. I think Purdue could keep it close within the 16.5. I don't see it coming down to a field goal like the Illinois game, but I do see Purdue keeping it within the 16.5.
Okay, that's actually a good point because you're right. Illinois was really up for Michigan, and it came down to the last 2 minutes for Michigan to barely put them away. Now, on the other side of that, Purdue did put Illinois away 31-24. So, again, that's why these kids play the game. You never know what's going to happen. James made a great point. It's indoors. You don't have to worry about weather.
Yeah.
It makes it good for that passing. And Purdue has a real solid passing game. The problem is Michigan's defense is obviously really good, but they run the ball control. And once you wear them down in that fourth quarter, I mean, geez.
Yeah.
I think the extra time to get ready is going to help them. And I personally feel that they're going to cover.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I see a 20-point game, Michigan winning.
Okay, so that was the number 3. The number 2 team actually doesn't even play in any. Oh, I'm sorry. They are number 2 now.
Right, yeah.
My
they-
bad.
they
My
moved
bad.
up.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
all good. Yep.
The number 3 team doesn't play, or is that TCU?
TCU's got
TCU.
K-State.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Gosh, I am out of it this morning.
That's
aren't I?
okay.
Okay, so we mentioned TCU. Let's go TCU. Number 4 TCU.
Number 3.
Yeah, golly. Of course, I made these before. Oh, they changed. So TCU is 3, Michigan's 2, and they're playing at Arlington, Texas, Cowboys AT&T Stadium. Number 12 K-State, and this could be interesting because they've already played.
Yes, and it was a comeback again by TCU, and like I, said last numerous weeks, TCU still my team. Well, not my team, but they're a very strong underdog. Me and Rogers have said in the past about how the first round of the playoffs, those 3 and 4 teams get just blown out.
Yeah, semifinal games.
Yeah, the semi game. Yeah, I don't think TCU's. I think TCU, whoever they play, whoever they get, however this finishes out, looks like right now they're probably going to get Michigan. That's going to be a whale of a game, I think.
Okay, what if they don't? And here's
Oh,
why.
lose to K-State?
Yeah, I
Right,
think
okay.
K-State has a very good chance to knock them off because they've already seen them.
Mhm.
They already know what they're going to bring. They were very close. And if Will Hardy plays, I'm not saying he's better or worse than Adrian Martinez. He's different. So I feel that K-State has the best chance of upsetting, and I'm taking K-State in this.
I think it's the same, but flip. TCU's already saw them, already knows what they were going to bring and how they struggled with it early, and now they can make those adjustments like they did during that game. And I think, obviously TCU, you don't want to look past this game, but they obviously know, hey, win and we're in. We need to take care of business today or Saturday and make this happen. Granted, they haven't been awesome in the first half, like a lot like Michigan, but to become back wins as much as they have, I won't. No, I'll take TCU.
Roger?
Yeah, I'm taking K-State in this one. We'll talk about the college football playoff here in a little bit too after we discuss some of these games, but I think TCU's in regardless of whether they win or lose. But I like K-State to win this game. I do. Of course, last week TCU scored 63 points against a very good Iowa State team, or defense anyway. But K-State hung up 47 against Kansas. So 62 is a lot of points, and I think it'll stay under. I think it'll be a 31-29 game. But I'll take K-State. I'll take K-State to win this game.
Moving on to the number 4 team. All of these are basically offside. No one is a true home team. Go ahead.
Right, this one's being played indoors at Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium.
True.
Again, that quarterback, I wish I remember his name, the TCU guy, great passing quarterback, and now he doesn't have to worry about the elements like he has the Iowa State game and the Baylor game and stuff.
Dugan,
yeah. I know he's not up there in the Heisman, he should be, but indoors in that stadium.
29 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it.
Number 4 USC taking on number 11 Utah in their championship game. The spread went from 3 to now 2.5 in favor of USC, and they're playing this in Vegas. Roger?
Well, first off, I like Utah to win this game. I know that I know that of the 4 teams that are in the top 4 now, the one team that needs to win to stay in is USC. I believe if USC loses, that'll be their second loss, and they will push up in Ohio State into that top 4. But that being said, I still like Utah to win this game. I do. USC looked really good against UCLA. I think that Caleb Williams is probably going to win the Heisman.
Oh yeah.
He's looking very sharp.
34 touchdowns against 3 interceptions. The guy's just on fire.
Yeah, I know I've heard people already comparing him to the next Pat Mahomes, and I'm like, whoa, slow down there.
Right. Thank you.
But anyway, I think Utah was the team that beat USC earlier this year, so I think they'll do it again.
I'm going the other way. USC wants revenge, and I totally agree with what Roger's saying to a point. I think this is going to be a knockout heavyweight fight between 2 huge contenders in the top, I'll say top 15 because Utah is number 11. But somehow USC gets it done in the last 2 minutes, and because it's do or die. James?
I was on their boat, last week when we were talking about them playing Notre Dame, and, the talk was, are they overrated and blah, 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 Pac-12, no good. But I think they are that good. That quarterback is that good. He willed them a few drives in that Notre Dame game. Their last 5 games, 40-plus points a game. I don't know about clicking on all cylinders, but they're clicking pretty darn good. Yes, Utah beat them. Again, I think, revenge game, they both are going to make their adjustments. I think it was earlier in the year. Now, like I said, their last 5 games, USC has got it going. The defense doesn't have to be amazing. It just has to be really good, and it is. I mean, that Notre Dame team came in really hot, had a lot of hype coming in, won in 7 of their last 8, or 7 out of their last 8 games. And, I mean, Notre Dame was there for a little bit.
My concern is USC's defense because they allow almost 7 more points than Utah. Utah's defense, on paper, by the numbers, Utah's defense is better.
Yes.
But, I mean, they found a way to somehow beat UCLA by 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
They did get Notre Dame. Roger, what's going through your mind?
Well, I don't see much defense being played in this game at all. The over-under is 67, so obviously...
It went up to 68. Earlier in the week, it was 67, and now it's gone up to 68. So, and I agree with you.
Obviously, Vegas doesn't think there will be much defense played, and I think it'll go over. I think, 45-38 type game, maybe even in overtime, because I think both teams will just score. So
yeah, I like USC. You're right. If they do lose, I don't think Alabama's in. I think Ohio State's in. But the 4 teams playing, all of them, I think, have winnable games that there's not like on the fence. Same with Georgia. LSU is going to be tough. I'm not trying to lead too far up, but USC, I can definitely see them. Again, they're like TCU. We control our own destiny, right? And that's what Riley's going to be saying. Hey, we got to concentrate on this game, but we're in. Winning, we're in. That's what we need to do.
What do kids and players love to do the most? Be the spoilers. So both sides have just as much skin in the game. One side wants to go on to the college football playoffs, and the other side wants to be the spoiler for that team.
Right.
So they have a lot going on, which you already mentioned LSU, Georgia. Let's talk about that. James, what do you think? That's in Atlanta. So is that a home game for Georgia, so to speak?
100%. And I've been the naysayer for LSU pretty much all year, and they haven't really disappointed me. I don't know how they seem to find a way to lose or make games closer than they should, playing down to the teams, whatever. Georgia, I think, comes in early and strong, and the game's out of hand. Not out of hand by halftime, but you pretty much like, okay, is LSU even going to get a first down in the second half? I just think Georgia walks away with this game. I don't even know what the spread is, but
it went up from 17 to 17.5.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep.
Roger?
Yeah, I believe that's a lot of points, so I would take LSU in the points, but I do think Georgia kind of wins this game pretty handily. LSU, that running back for A&M last week ran for 230 yards. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And granted, as a Georgia Tech, LSU does have better defense, but against A&M, they just gave up 38 points
Yeah.
to an A&M team that they're already calling for their coach's head.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, he makes more than Matt Rule. He's $10 million a year.
Right.
It's crazy.
And LSU knowing, hey, we have to win this. People are giving us a little slight because we beat Tennessee. Our real main ugly loss was the Florida State one, first game of the season. Still, again, had a month to prepare. And then you let A&M come in and, you were on the road. That you go into A&M and 38?
Yeah.
Really?
And last week I somehow picked Georgia Tech to upset Georgia, which didn't even come close to happening. So Georgia is on a roll. They haven't covered every single game as far as the point spread. I don't see them covering this spread of
Really?
17.5, but I see them winning, beating LSU, because LSU has something to prove after that embarrassing loss on the road to A&M. Do they figure it out and get the upset? I don't think so, but
You think they try to keep it? They're able to keep it close.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Roger had mentioned earlier he wanted to discuss the college football playoffs. So what do you got going?
Well, I'm just saying that I don't think the committee is very high on Alabama. Alabama's resume has been going down every week.
Thank you.
LSU getting beat.
Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee losing late. So Alabama's best win of the year is against, I think, number 19 or 20 Texas now. That's their best win of the year.
And with their quarterback going out in the first quarter.
And
Right.
And the committee looks at all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The committee will look at, close victories that you shouldn't have been close and all that. So I think the only team in this college football playoff that is playing for their, to stay in it is USC. USC has to win.
Right.
If they don't win, that'll be their second loss, and I think the committee will push Ohio State back up there. Because Ohio State has, I think, of all the teams, they have the best remaining case to get in because they have a top 10 win against the Penn State. So I think Ohio State would get in there way ahead of Alabama. And as far as the other three teams go, Georgia, TCU, and Michigan, I think they can all lose and they'll still be in it.
Yeah. And USC's beat 3 ranked teams. No one else has done that up there, And I know the Pac-12 gets a lot of slight, but they obviously have teams in the rankings for them to beat 3 ranked teams.
Yeah.
And I think they're not convincing, but pretty good fashion. 40 point. Defense isn't
wins a win.
Playing a lot,
Yeah.
right?
When you're up against a ranked opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, TCU I think has the best resume of all the teams, don't they? As far as playing ranked teams and
yeah, with the Big 12 and I think some have fallen out, like Kansas. So do they count it? Well, they were ranked when they played. Like Texas was ranked when Alabama played them, but they're not ranked anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that falls in the tree of where they overranked early type thing. I don't know.
I want all of our predictions to come true, but I also kind of want all of the underdogs to win just to see how big of a wrench it throws into the college football playoff. And if that happens, does it speed up the process to expand it?
So I got breaking news.
Yeah.
Now, by the time people hear this, they're already going to know it. But they've already cleared the last obstacle. The Rose Bowl did their contract. They're going to expand. Now, I totally disagree with this, but this is my opinion. I'm nobody. 12 teams in 2024. We're not even going to have to wait much longer. In 2024, they're going to have a 12-team playoff.
And isn't there something out there that's saying that that's not even complete? I mean, they could still step in and say, well, let's just start it next year again.
They had a tentative date. True, they had a tentative date. So there's nothing signed in blood yet, no contract. And I think it could go faster. But again, it's college sports, and it's all about the money. So if the money is right for somebody to make it come quicker, or if the money is right for it to stay the way it is, that's, to me, going to be the deciding factor.
And I kind of like the 12 teams because, like I said, since this playoff has started, these semifinal games have been kind of there's only been like 3 good games out of the 16 potential semifinal
Right.
games. So with this 12 teams, of course, the top 4 teams get buys. So then you got 5 going against 12 and 6 going against 11 and so on. So you might actually see some good first round games
Okay.
before we get into that
Say if it
following
started,
week.
you would have Ohio State playing Washington. So I'm guessing Ohio State 10-point favorite. Bama would be playing your Utah. I could see that being a good game. Tennessee playing a K-State, I guess. And then Penn State blowing out Clemson. That's my thing is when you go all the way down to the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th teams, they're good, but they're not national champion good, you know. And then when you put in those 4 that just got the bye going against those teams, it's just like we were just talking about. They're all going to be the underdogs.
Yeah.
Those 4 teams, when Michigan plays the winner and they're going against K-State or Utah, you're like, okay, that's not even going to be a game.
You're looking at the top 12.
The top 12.
Who is the like the Cinderella team out of the 12 teams? I thought I saw something where Tulane could have potentially been pushed up.
They're
into
18th.
the 18th. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the closest one that's not a Power 5 school is Tulane at 18.
Okay.
All the rest are Power 5 down to Central Florida at 22.
Yeah. All right.
So that being said, I feel we've already kind of seen a national championship playoff game in the Big Ten championship between Ohio State and Michigan.
Agreed.
So it really baffles me and how years past a one-loss Alabama or a one-loss Clemson can stay in the playoffs, but a one-loss Ohio State who has beaten multiple ranked teams doesn't get in ahead of a one-loss USC. So it's going to be huge for that Utah game.
Penn State won the Big Ten title and was left out with 1 loss
Right.
of the playoffs, which is crap. Yeah, just to get their Bama team in. Yeah, so you're 100% correct. We talk about the Pac-12 not getting love. The Big Ten has been shafted a few times with 1-loss team champion.
And I applaud the transfer portal because I feel that has created a little bit more parity, a little more level playing ground for these kids who don't want to sit on the bench, who are as good as the starter in whatever position.
Or better.
But they don't have the rapport with the coach. They did something to maybe tick him off, like gave him the side eye. Maybe he's a little smart mouth, little snotty brat. So the coach is like, go sit on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so sick of you. And so then they go to a different team. Spencer Rattler comes to mind. Granted, he chose a South Carolina Gamecock who is not a contender, but I mean, the players that followed Riley to USC, wow.
Yeah.
What if Burrow would have stayed in Ohio State? Does he still ride the pine, or does he beat one of them guys out? Because I don't know if he wasn't in favor, but for whatever reason, he wasn't the man, and obviously brings a title to LSU, you know, and he was an Ohio State guy, you know.
And look how quickly everybody turned on Ogren.
Right.
Granted, he had a horrible season the next year because he brought on the faltering Pelini as the defensive guru, which I think was one reason. We're getting sidetracked here.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
right.
Roger.
But anyway, if USC holds on and beats Utah, I mean, we're talking about a playoff that don't have Clemson, Alabama, or Ohio State in it. I mean,
Right.
that's like the NCAA tournament in basketball.
The Final
Not
Four don't have a
having-
true blue.
Don't have Duke, North Carolina, or Kansas in it.
or
you know?
Kentucky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And it's I hope they all win because it'd be nice to see. It'd be nice to have the Pac-12 make a little push. You know, again, I'm with you. I'd love to see the Michigan, Georgia, but why not get the TCU, USC team in the title game? You know, make it a little different. But
And it's fun. And the reason I say it's fun is because it's getting everybody, not just us, everybody in the nation that loves college football talking. Because this time of year, anything can happen. The game, Rattler went off for 6 touchdowns. No one saw that happening.
No.
No one saw
No.
them knocking off Tennessee.
No.
So it's fun to watch and see what's happening. So the other sports teams that are getting ready for a playoff, NCAA volleyball. And the Nebraska Lady Huskers have got a number 2 seed.
They did not finish strong this year, unfortunately.
Well, yeah. Nicklin Hames was out the last game, and Kenzie Knuckles is out for the rest of the season with a knee injury.
And there's some good D right there sitting on the sideline.
Yeah, I hope Nicklin can come back.
Yes.
I haven't heard one way or the other.
Nope. And hush hush.
December 1st versus Delaware. That's tonight.
Today.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, number 2 seed, there's 6 Big Ten teams. Not only did they get 6 teams in, but I think, I apologize to our audience, but I don't look. I think they're all top 3 seeds. They're all 1, 2, or 3.
I'm going to leave a link in the description that gives the entire seeding for everybody to see all the seeds.
Yep.
Did you know that Delaware has the number 2 ranked defense in the entire country?
And they're short. They're quick to the ball, but they don't have hitters, right? They're not a big offensive power.
And statistically, we're number 1, which I am surprised that it's not a Wisconsin team,
Right.
who, in my humble opinion, has the great potential
man.
of repeating.
Yep.
Their coach was named Coach of the Year.
I can see it.
Kelly Sheffield hasn't been there that long, just shy of 12, 13 years maybe, and just an amazing job. Roger.
Yeah, I haven't followed volleyball like you guys have, but just from listening to you guys, checking out the scores, we're not going into this tournament very strong. So, but we'll see.
There is
We'll
the
see.
potential for us to get an early exit ticket, and it would be unfortunate. But Roger makes a valid point. We're not. James makes a valid point. We're not playing the best volleyball right now.
But we do. I looked at the bracket. Theirs. The other ones. I don't know all the schools as well. But looking at their bracket, they have very winnable. The Sweet 16 is very easily. I can't say easy. It's a tournament. Looks very makeable for them to get it right. The ship. And watching the Minnesota game, their last loss was, Cook in the 5-1 and the 6-2 offense, and which one he really wants to go to. And due to the injuries, he has to go to the 6-2 more than he wanted, than the 5-1. And 6-2 doesn't really work, but it does work. So if they can get it figured out by that Sweet 16, and then they start getting those a little bit tougher games. But overall, I think their bracket is very winnable to the Final Four for a Nebraska team that we watched this year. I think, was it Florida? There's like one team in there before the Final Four that I could see a hiccup. But other than that,
Well, does the
Florida.
bracket,
Go ahead, Roger.
does the bracket in volleyball work similar to the bracket, like
100%.
like a basketball?
Yes,
Okay.
100%.
So the winner of the 215 plays what, like 6-11?
Right.
Okay. So
And the number 1 seed in their bracket's Louisville.
if we don't make it to the Sweet 16, that's like a huge upset.
Huge upsets.
Yeah.
Yes, it'd be like Duke losing before the Sweet 16.
Yeah. you bet. Yeah.
And like I said, the number 1 seed is Louisville. It's not even a Wisconsin or Ohio State in their bracket.
Yeah.
Wisconsin is the number 1 seed in the other bracket. Florida is in the other bracket with Wisconsin.
Okay.
So we got lucky that we don't have to see Wisconsin or Minnesota, because
Right,
Minnesota
Yep.
is the let's see here. Minnesota is the number 2 seed in the bracket that has Texas as the number 1 seed.
Yes.
And then the other bracket, San Diego, who's
Yep.
the overall number 2 team in the whole country, is the number 2 seed, and they have Stanford as the number 1 seed in that bracket. So
Was that kind of a surprise to you, Darrell, that San Diego got a 2 seed and not a 1 seed playing? Was it their competition? Because I'm like,
yeah, that's how I look at it with their
Really?
competition.
but how are they number 2 in the country? And then you're like, you're only a 2 seed.
Right.
You know,
It doesn't make sense.
We can
does it?
vote you up here, but we really don't think you're that good. I hope San Diego just really proves them wrong. It's kind of I think it was a raw deal.
Conversely, though, the 1 and 2 seeds, when you have the 4 different brackets,
Regions, right?
the 4 different regions, that's a better way to say it. I'm going to say those 1 and 2 seeds are equal 1 seeds.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
So you basically have 8 1 seeds, but they have to call it a 1 and a 2 seed.
Right.
So is it a surprise? Yes. No. Because they're a top seed. If they would have been a 4 seed, I'd have been, that's asinine.
Right.
You guys are smoking crack.
Yeah. And, Minnesota winning like they did at the end of the season, upsetting Ohio State, Nebraska, getting a 2, I agree there. Nebraska kind of limping in, getting a 2. I was there. But like I said, when I saw the San Diego, and I agree, those top teams, they're good. It's almost chalk in volleyball where you can put the 1 through 4 seeds all the way to the Elite 8 and then see what happens after that.
Yeah, there's some great volleyball tonight. Unfortunately, ESPN Plus, you have to be an ESPN Plus subscriber. I say unfortunately because it used to all be carried on ESPNU and a few other various Fox, Big Ten, and a few other stuff. But now ESPN Plus wants everybody to subscribe extra stuff. So, again, I will leave a link for the volleyball brackets in the description, and we're going to move on to some exciting times in the NFL.
Yes, I agree.
Roger, who do you think between the Bills and the Patriots for tonight's game at New England has the upper hand?
Well, I got a few notes here. The Bills are 1 out of 5 on the road this year against the spread, covering the spread. They go on the road against the Pats. So now,
well, the line
at,
dropped. The line at the beginning of the week was 5. Now it's 3.5.
Yeah.
So the games that they didn't cover, did they win or they just didn't cover?
They're 1-3-1.
That's rough.
So they've in the 5 games on the road this year, they're 1-3-1 against the spread. So I don't know if that means they're due, or if that means that they'll continue not playing good on the road. I like the Patriots at home. I'll take the Patriots at home. Patriots have always played good at home for 20 years now. So yeah, I'll take the Patriots.
James?
So I thought you were going to talk about this stat, but the one stat that stood out to me is the last game of the season, or not the last game, but the last time they played last season, their second game last season, Buffalo Patriots, and in the playoffs, Buffalo Patriots. Buffalo hasn't punted yet in 2 games against the Patriots. Has not punted yet. Has put up, a lot of points and a lot of yards on the Patriots. I don't think I can't say it's not going to be a game. It's going to be Buffalo realizes, when they say who needs to win, both need. Patriots need to win it to stay relevant in the playoffs. Buffalo needs to win it for a gut check and say, hey, we need to be ready because, like you said, playoffs are right around the corner. December, you got to win your December games. First game of the December, here we go. So, yeah, I see Buffalo getting it done. Again, like I said, the Patriots Belichick has not figured out the Bills. Bills are down a few key defensive players, but I think Josh Allen and that offense is honestly just too good for the Patriots. First one to 21 wins, and I believe it's Buffalo. I mean, it's only a 3-point spread, but NFL, Thursday night, short week for both.
And it was sad to see the former Denver Bronco linebacker Vaughn got hurt.
Yep.
So I feel that's why it went from 5 to 3.5. If you look at the numbers, just points allowed, they're almost identical. Mm-hmm. If you look at rushing yards allowed, almost identical, within 4 or 5 yards. Passing yards within 10, 15, 20 yards, almost identical.
Very similar.
So
the difference is,
in my mind, the difference is the offense.
Right.
The offense, the Bills can get it done a little bit better than the Patriots. So I'm taking the Bills on the road. Roger took the Patriots, and it sounds like James is taking the Bills. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, granted, it's easy to pick the Bills. They've been the Super Bowl favorite since they beat Kansas City early in the season. And they've had, like Roger's talking about, they've had their road hiccups. And I think their losses are in the division. I know they lost to the Jets, and
they lost to Minnesota, and they lost to the Jets. They lost to Minnesota in overtime.
Okay.
And that was
at home,
3 weeks ago, and 4 weeks ago they lost to the Jets.
I totally think Bills right the ship, and we start talking about them being Super Bowl contenders again.
They got 3 losses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 8-3. The next game I want to talk about, at one point Roger anointed them the best team in the NFL, and I don't disagree with that because that was before they added Christian McCaffrey. They're not sitting on a perfect record by any means, but when he gets closer to the end of the season, I feel that the Niners just keep getting a little bit better, and a little bit better. And they're at home this week against the Dolphins, which could be a really test for the Niners defense. The beginning of the week, it started out 3.5 point favorite. Now it's up to 4. James chuckled a little bit So, James, what's on your mind?
It's the same. My thing, you know, with the 49ers, even before McCaffrey and now even after McCaffrey, their defense is there. You know, they have a champion defense. I don't think they have a champion quarterback. You know, when that, like the Dallas game last year, you know, if you flip it and Dallas is up 17-7, 17-8, and you need Garoppolo to get a first down field goal or get a score and try to onside kick it, do you have faith in Garoppolo to do that? Because I haven't seen it from him this year. You know, granted, McCaffrey helps, but you still have to have that quarterback, and I don't think they're there. On the flip side of that, Miami has surprised me. I did not believe Tua would be this good and play this well as a team. When you look at his touchdown passes, yards, and all that he's got going on, pretty impressive. Granted, they gave him Tyreek Hill and I believe Waddle.
I'm surprised he bounced back from that concussion as good as he did.
As well as he
Two
did,
games,
right.
he was basically out.
Yep. And a lot of those sports stuff, all the talking heads were, leave him out for the season. Don't bring him back. Don't do this. Don't do that. And now as he come back and played, he's come back and played at almost an MVP caliber level. And you can almost argue that he's in the race, even though he only missed 2 games. Well, a game and a half.
Yeah.
Or no, I guess it was 2 full games.
It was 2 full games. My actuarian brain thinks, okay, it doesn't matter about what's going to go on this season with him. Let's see what happens 15, 20 years down the road. Because if he goes crazy like one of the other people from all the CTE, it's going to be sad. So that being said, that out of the way, Niners, Dolphins. James, think about it. Roger, what's on your mind with the Dolphins and the Niners?
Yeah, I seen something where this late in the year, usually the teams with the better records win, like a 70% rate. Miami's 8-3, San Francisco's 7-4. It's at San Francisco. They're 3.5-point favorites. With all that being said, though, I like the Niners at home. I like the Niners at home to get it done. I think they win by 7. I think they shut down Tua. I think that defense is just about as good as a defense as you can get. I mean, I've said, you know, in the past. I mean, you got like the '85 Bears, you got the 2000 Ravens, who are probably the 2 greatest defenses of all time. And when the playoffs started, they showed it. I think they were pitching shutouts throughout the whole playoffs, all the way to the Super Bowl. I don't know if I would put this San Francisco defense up there with them, but they're good, and they're playing in a league now where you can't touch nobody and you get flagged. I mean, so
they're allowing 16 points a game.
Yeah,
and it's nuts. They're only allowing 80 yards rushing a game.
And I think the
average.
last 3 games they've allowed 10. So and they're getting healthier too. They're still missing 2 guys. And Armstead on their defense, and I think a couple of their defensive backs got hurt. Just think when this defense gets totally healthy, I think their defense gets better throughout the year.
Yeah.
So
all right, James is still trying to. He's smiling ear to ear, and he's still trying to figure out which way he wants to go on this.
I can't talk up. I'm not taking away the 49ers do have a good defense. I'll give you that. But New Orleans 13-10. Arizona, 10 points. The Chargers, by the way, didn't have any receivers that game. I watched that Monday night game, 16 points. And the Rams, who we know how amazing they are, 14 points. They played a real team in Kansas City, gave up 44 points. When they went against a winning record team, 44 points, that defense. But on the flip side, you have Miami, who's coming in, and I'm talking about how great Tua's playing, Houston, Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. None of those defense say, ooh, watch out, right? So again, you have 2 teams, 8-3, 7-4, padded by a very favorable schedule. I don't know who's going to win, but whoever wins, I'm not going to say, okay, they're putting themselves on the map. So just to be the oddball, I will take Miami and Tua, mainly because they're putting up 30-plus points a game, and the Niners struggle to put up 20.
You never know. It could totally happen.
Right. And I mean, like I said, the Niners are always known for having a good, stingy defense. But when your offense is coming 3 and out, Miami has a pretty good defense themselves. I mean, you look what they did in the East so far. You know, they've been right there. So, yeah, I think Miami can stifle the Niners enough and give Tua and Hill a chance. I mean, Hill is ready to set the reception record. Good luck. Yeah, I'm going to take Miami in this one.
So you mentioned the game with Kansas City whooped their butt, and you mentioned Tyreek Hill, who came from Kansas City. Let's talk about the Kansas City on the road in Cincinnati against Joe Burrow's Bengals. And the Chiefs are favored at the beginning of the week by 2.5. They've now dropped that down to 2 at the overs at 52.5. So this is a weird game to me. To have it set at 2. I would think that they would have set it at like 5 or 6, even though KC's on the road. But Roger, what's going on in your head on this one?
Well, they keep saying that this is a revenge game for Kansas City because Cincinnati kind of, took it to them in the playoffs. I mean, Kansas City had, an 18-point lead in that game? And the Bengals came back and won that game in the AFC Championship.
And didn't the
Largest
Bengals
comeback.
have 9 sacks on Burrow?
Yeah.
How he didn't have to get carted off the field, some of those hits, that was nuts. Anyway.
So, anyway, they're talking about this being a revenge game. I say I think Kansas City just needs to focus on this game and just beat them and not worry about that whole game last year because both these teams will be in the playoffs. If you want to call a revenge game, let's just wait till the playoffs.
Thank you. Exactly.
But the thing is Kansas City goes on the road against Cincinnati, who is playing really well. And we all seen Joe Burrows. I mean, he'll play. I don't know. Throughout the year he'll have 2 or 3 just terrible games. And I think Cincinnati's defense kind of shakes him up. I like Cincinnati at home. I'll take Cincinnati to win this game.
I 100% agree with how do you call this a revenge game when no matter who wins or loses this game doesn't put them in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs?
Yeah.
That's silly. Wait, I'll get you.
Sports writers, sports talk shows, they have to prove that they need a job so that they call it something.
To me.
Or it's the coaching staff trying to get their guys pumped up. So, probably a mix of all three. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's good. That's good. To me, I have to go a different angle, but I like Cincinnati at home. Their D coordinator in that second half of that game, and they found ways to slow down the Kansas City, how to keep Mahomes in the pocket, make him throw it more. Not that it has helped because, Mahomes is already working on another MVP. He looks like him, and I mean, he's going to throw the ball to Kelsey, and yet no one's triple covering this guy. I mean, seriously. Yeah. When it's third down in anything, you put 3 guys on Kelsey and leave 1 guy open and see if Mahomes sees him. And he won't because he's only looking at 1 guy.
Is Kelsey a shapeshifter? Because I wondered the same thing. On 3 plays that come to mind, somehow 1 guy who is going to get the ball is wide open in the end zone, streaking across the back of it.
Not only wide open, but there's 3 yards barrier. Like, wait a minute. How is this? Ramsey followed him when they played in the Rams game. They're like, when in the third downs and the crucial, Ramsey was going to follow him, and you would see it. And somehow you're like, well, where did he go? I mean, how is this guy still catching balls in space? I mean, when he catches it and turns around expecting a hit, and he's like, oh, well, son of a gun, I got 7 yards I can run before I even see a person.
And another catch that comes to mind is he is double covered, and then he rambles down the field for another 20 yards to score in a touchdown.
Yes.
So the guy's unstoppable.
Right.
But what comes to mind is a basketball legend, Larry Bird. He would, on the inbounds pass, tell his defensive teammate, not teammate,
right.
The guy he's going against, the defender going, hey, I'm going to get the ball, I'm going to fake you out, I'm going to go to the corner, and I'm going to hit the game winner.
Right.
To his face, and that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
So does Kelsey line up and tell the defender on the other side going, hey, I'm going to lose you somehow, you're going to get a little bit mixed up because I'm good and you're not, and I'm going to get this touchdown.
I bet you I catch this with 2-yard cushion. Yeah. No, you're not. What the hell? How did that just happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like how you talked about Burrow's good games, bad games. I think he plays up to the level of competition because That game against the Steelers was not pretty. They ended up pulling it out. Good D coming in, but he had some parts in that game. I'm like, Joe, you need to be annihilating these guys, leading them. And I think he does that with Kansas City coming in, knowing it's a good defense, knowing what big of a game it is, especially to the home crowd. And, I picked against them last week. A little egg on my face, so I'm taking Cincinnati this week.
All right. I'm also taking the Bengals because I just feel that in Cincinnati, that is just tough. And they're on a roll, like you guys said. We're going to keep moving to the next game. We have what I feel is a good NFC matchup with the Titans and the Eagles. Potential playoff implications. They could see each other in the playoffs. At Philadelphia, 5-point favorite, 44.5 overs. Roger?
Yeah. The thing about this game is the things that the Eagles do good. The Eagles play great in the first half of the football game. The run offense is, I think, first in the league. Now, I don't know. I wrote first in the league, but I don't know if they're the best offense in the first half or the best run offense throughout the whole game. But anyway, the things that they do good, the Titans counter that. They got a great run defense. But on the flip side of it, what the Titans do good is, of course, they run the football with Derrick Henry, and the Eagles do not stop the run very well. I believe if Titans can keep this game close going into halftime, I think the Titans win this football game, and that's what I'm going to go with.
And Roger, the Eagles know that they can't stop the run, and they brought in Ndamukong Suh. And I don't know if that was the answer, but
He played decent. He played pretty good.
Yeah, the more time you give him, the more time he gets to figure out, the more conditioning he gets, the better he is. He's not a young guy anymore, but
right.
The guy can plug some rush holes. Oh, my gosh. So, honestly, I haven't figured out what's going to happen, but Rodgers taking the Titans, and I think that's a good pick. The 5 points, I'm surprised the Eagles are getting 5 points. James, what do you think?
I've been down on the Eagles all year. Granted, they only have one loss. But again, they beat Green Bay. They beat the Colts, Washington, Houston, and the Steelers. Again, none of those teams scream. Washington's probably their best win. I'm sorry, they lost that game. My bad. They actually lost that game. So in their last 5, they beat Green Bay, who's a losing record. Obviously, the Colts, who, if better time management or however way that game ended, the Colts probably could have beat the Eagles on Monday night. And then you have Houston and Pittsburgh that they beat. Again, teams that are not scoring. So, yes, their run defense is very bad. They give up 120 plus a game, and Tennessee runs for at least 120 a game. And I think trying to bring down Derrick Henry come that second half where Rodgers says, yeah, if it's close and the Eagles have to score, can they do it? I don't think so. Yeah, I think Tennessee wins this by 7 or not even 10 points.
Yeah, looking at the last 5 games, Tennessee hasn't lost a back-to-back for a while.
Right.
They lost one at home against Cincinnati, but we were just all praising Joe Burrow just a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the Titans as well on the road. They lost on the road against Kansas City, but that was in overtime. And yeah, I know the Eagles are looking good. The Eagles are winning. They beat Green Bay. They beat Indianapolis. And somehow they lost a snoozer with Washington at home. And that's the game that kind of points me in the direction of the Titans, because if you have a team that can manage the clock, the Eagles are in trouble.
Right. And if they keep Hurts in the pocket and let that D-line get to them, because they don't have to blitz a lot. Their front four is so good, and they can put a little, Vrabel's a defensive guy. He's going to have that defense ready. Eagles are going to have to find a way to score other than the ground game. And yes, I know Hurts has thrown for 300 yards a few times, but again, it wasn't against a quality defense that they're going to face that even Joe Burrow struggled against. And obviously, we take Joe Burrow over Hurts any day. So, yeah, Titans defense and their ball control, running the ball, and Tannehill's starting to play pretty good right now. So, yep.
Quarterbacks can really hurt you, or they can really help you. And if you can command the clock and if you can command the game and you don't turn it over, those are key. And a guy who has done that is a guy who is playing for the Commanders who wasn't supposed to be the starter. Wentz was supposed to be the starter. And I'm saying that because the Commanders are on the road at the Giants this week. And the Commanders are sitting at 7-5. I don't think anybody thought that they would be sitting at 7-5 without Wentz.
Well, no, not yeah. So they're getting a new quarterback. Giants were supposed to be getting a brand new coaching staff and starting over. They're supposed to be both below 500 teams, and now, right now, NFC East has all four of those teams are in the playoffs. When was I didn't look up or anything, but when's the last time an entire division made the playoffs? So yeah, coming into this season, it was all about Cowboys, Eagles, and now you have two more teams that are, like I said, right now, all four are in.
So the Giants are an underdog at home by 2.5 points. And I feel that the Commanders come in and cover that easily. I'm taking Washington all day long on this. If the Giants surprise me, they surprise me. But I'm on the Commanders bandwagon because of what they're doing with people that they shouldn't even have playing in their starting roles are commanding everybody's attention on the field and off the field. So, Roger?
Yeah, I like Washington in this game too. I've been kind of down on the Giants since they were 7-1 or whatever they were. I said that they would go 2-6 the rest of the year, and so far they haven't disappointed me. They're right on track of doing that. Washington's defense is getting better every week, and I think Chase Young, I don't know if he's back this week yet or not, but boy, he's a beast on the football field. If they get him, I think this Washington's defense is pretty legit. And I don't think the Giants score enough to beat them. So
Chase Young's questionable. They're calling it. His knee's been limited in practices, and that was yesterday's practice. So they're still not quite sure. So he'll probably be a game time decision. But Roger, you're going Washington?
yeah, I'll go Washington.
And James also at.
Right, but my thing on the Giants is I think what we're overlooking is they don't have a wide receiver. All their starting wide receivers are out. All their corners are injured and out. Then the Cowboys game against Thanksgiving, they were playing up with backup corners and did a darn good job against a really good passing offense with the Cowboys. When you're talking about more with less with Washington, Giants is doing the same thing, winning these games without a weapon on offense. You have the Eagles that have numerous weapons, and Giants are playing with third and fourth string guys that shouldn't even be in the lineup, and they're doing really well. I want to pick the Giants at home in this game.
They could be due. They lost their last two.
Yeah, and like I said, if it wasn't, they have so many guys out, especially in the secondary, receivers on the one side and then the corners and safeties on the other side. And I think they're missing a very key linebacker, if I remember. But they still play really good D. I watched it Thanksgiving with Dallas. Now, the second half, Dallas scored three straight drives. But late in that game, when Daniel Jones needed a touchdown, they got it. So I'm going to take the Giants at home against Washington. Division games are always, 50-50, so I'll take that home team today.
All right. Let's take a look at the Vikings at home against a AFC New York Jets. Sunday, the Vikings are favored by 3 with 44.5 point overs. I don't see the Vikings having any trouble. I'm surprised the Jets are just a 3-point underdog. I think the Vikings win by 10 in this one. The Vikings have had some letdowns recently, and for me, this is a game, granted it's not a division game, but it's a game for them that, hey, we have to come out and prove that we're still the team. We still have chemistry. Let's go out and get this done. So to me, that's why I'm saying that if they don't make that signature win, then I think something's up. But I'm taking the Vikings at home.
Yeah, I'll take the Vikings at home also. I don't expect this Mike White to come out and play like he did last week. I think Kirk Cousins will step up and play better in this game. So with just the quarterback play, I think Kirk Cousins outplays Mike White, and Minnesota gets it done this week.
No.
Yeah, James is smiling ear to ear.
This is my upset. I'm not talking Giants Washington's upset because division game close, whatever. But this is my upset. Jets go into Minnesota in the Dome. That defense, you want to talk about a defense playing really good right now? That Jets defense, I mean, look at that New England game, was pitching a shutout. They only lost because of a punt return, for crying out loud. And then, obviously, the Vikings beat the Patriots last week. I do believe the Jets and that defense and Mike White just needs to put up 17, 18 points. And by the way, Jets only giving up 17 and Minnesota giving up almost 24 a game. So, yeah, I'm taking the Jets and upset because to me, Minnesota to me is like the Giants to Roger. I think Minnesota's overrated. They've had a lot of good wins, but I don't think they're going to finish the year as strong. They still get in because the North is so bad, but Jets go in and win this game.
The Jets, I agree. The Jets have an amazing defense, and the only way that they get that done is if Mike
White.
Yeah, there we go. My mind just went white. White blank. So if he comes in and plays lights out again, they have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But so they being the Vikings laid an egg with the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Jets want to do something, watch that game film on what it took for the Cowboys to come in and just completely annihilate them. But I just don't see that happen. I see the Vikings going off.
Yeah.
I really do.
I mean, the Vikings gave up 26 points to the Patriots. It was 33-26. I don't know how you can be giving up 26 points to the Patriots. I don't know. Like I said, Jets 10 points, 3 points, 17, 17, and 9. I mean, they held the Buffalo to 17 points, beat them 20-17. And I'm thinking Josh Allen and the Bills' offense is a lot better than Minnesota and their offense.
I'm basing mine off of the Jets lost twice to the Patriots.
Yes.
And the Vikings recently demolished the Patriots somehow.
It was 33-26, one-score game.
Yeah. In my mind, that's...
Right. Yeah, they gave up 33 points.
If it was a 3-point game, yeah. Okay. Wrong choice of words. They beat them.
Okay, but like I said, that Jets-Patriots, they won with a punt return. They didn't move the ball on that Jets defense.
Right, where Minnesota did. Minnesota moved the ball very easily on the Patriots, and the Jets couldn't move the ball at all against
Zach
the
Wilson.
Patriots. I know.
Right.
I know. So, again, if Mike White comes out and has a crazy game,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
I think if he plays within that scheme, I mean, these receivers are just give me a chance to catch the ball. Zach, I don't know what happened the last few games. His head case, I'm not calling him Ryan Leaf yet, but he's borderline Ryan Leaf material.
But they have game film on him now. They can study what he's going to do. They can study his habits. He doesn't have a chance to do that exact same thing, in my mind. And I've been wrong every day of my life. I've been wrong every day of my life.
Yeah.
So it can happen. College basketball. Let's talk some college basketball.
I want to make
go ahead, Roger. I'm sorry.
Make one more thing about NFL, and we don't need to talk about the game, but I want to talk about one team, the Ravens.
Oh
what
my
is
gosh.
the deal with them?
Right.
They have blown 3 double-digit leads now in the fourth quarter this year.
Yeah. And okay.
I mean, they're 7-4. They should be 10-1.
Easily.
Why are they blowing these leads?
When we picked our things, I'd said Baltimore is playing great. Lamar Jackson, MVP candidate, blah, blah, blah. And I can't really put this on him because his last game that, he hands the ball off, the guy fumbles it inside the 20. They turn around and score with it.
Yeah.
The double digits leads that they blown is arguably the defense giving them up, giving drives right down the field. Yeah, I wish I knew, but this Baltimore has they keep taking weapons away from Lamar. You have a great quarterback. They trade away Brown. Or I'm sorry, that was Tennessee. Their tight end. Sorry. So he doesn't have the same weapons that a lot of these other good quarterbacks have. And he betted on himself in the offseason.
They did take away Hollywood Brown from him, right?
Okay, yeah.
To Arizona.
Right.
Yeah.
And he lost his tight end. His running game, they've been banged up all year. They didn't even start the season with their starting running backs. It's a baffle how a Ravens team that's known for the defense, in the AFC North.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Ravens, it's defense, 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 and this team has blown double-digit leads
3 times.
crazy.
Yep.
I wish I knew because I still think they are a threat when they're right.
No.
Yeah, they're still 7-4.
Yeah,
But in the years past, they've been threats going into the playoffs, and then they just lay an egg in the playoffs.
right.
Yeah. So I don't know what to think of this Ravens team.
Also, Lamar is questionable. They limited it in practice yesterday. He has a quad injury. Game time decision. My guess, he's going to power through it. I'm a stud. It doesn't hurt that bad. Give me a shot or whatever they do.
Well, yeah,
And
and
any plays.
and he needs it because he didn't sign his contract, so he's betting himself. He's doing the Aaron Judge this year.
So, men's college basketball is in full swing, and so are upsets. Upsets are in full swing last night. One of the blue bloods we mentioned earlier about, hey, what would a Final Four look like without North Carolina? Well, they got beat by a Big Ten team, Indiana, last night.
Dude, they ranked number 1, and they've lost 3 straight.
Yep.
Isn't that crazy? I know you talk about, well, the last couple of years, number 1 teams keep
Indiana
getting beat.
whooped them.
Right.
That was over a 12-point game. The whole game the whole time I watched the score.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of the game, but I just kept looking at the score because, of course, I thought North Carolina's lost 2 games in a row. I said they're due. They're going to win.
Yep.
And I look and I'm like, Indiana's favored by like 5.5. I'm like, I gotta bet on North Carolina. Nah.
Yeah. They cut it to 7 with 3 minutes to go, whatever, but that's the closest I saw.
Yeah.
I was watching the game. I watched the Duke and Ohio State game. And then in between doing things at work, I was trying to peek in on that game. And every time I looked, Indiana we were sitting at break, 9 o'clock break, and me and Heidi were watching it. And I'm like, dude, that's six straight points. 3 straight fast breaks for Indiana off of steals. And I was like, and then, Caroline calls a timeout. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like a 6-0 run in 37 seconds.
No.
Yeah, it was really weird. I have no doubt North Carolina's going to right the ship. They struggled a little bit last year. They righted the ship. Obviously made the great run, win the title. But again, you were ranked number 1 and you lost 3 straight. Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay, they've lost 3 straight to some good teams.
Of course.
And in my mind, in basketball, it's great to lose early to look at some areas of opportunity, things you need to improve on. So sometimes a loss can be more telling than a win. And great coach.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have no doubt North
None.
Carolina rights the ship.
Nope.
James had some games that he wanted to look at. One of them is tonight against number 7 Creighton on the road to number 2 Texas.
Yeah, you got the Big 12, Big East tournament play, whatever. Creighton is playing great. They have not only the outside game, but now they got the inside game going. And they're showing themselves to be a legit contender, not only in the East, but in the country.
And they have Texas favored by 7, which I don't see. I see Creighton keeping it close.
Right.
But
I haven't got to see Texas play at all this year. I really don't have anything on them. I don't even know if they've been on TV. Obviously, they're number 2 in the country now.
now Texas has beaten Gonzaga handily, and Creighton just lost its last game against Arizona at home by 3.
Yeah. Unranked Arizona. Yeah, not a good loss, but maybe, like I said, they learned something. 6-1, 5-0. You can't win 6 games without, learning something about your team.
Yeah, their averages per game are really close. Texas is at 82.5 or 82.2. Creighton's at 83.9, but it's their defense. Texas is only allowing, I'm going to round up, 53 points a game, and Creighton's defense is a little soft. They're closer to 70 points a game. So I think it still should be a fun offensive battle. But
Texas does have that win against the Zags, gave up 74 to them, but they don't seem really battle tested if you look at the other teams they played. I do like Creighton's resume a little bit more. I'm taking Creighton.
Oh, okay. I would like to take Creighton, but Texas defense is too stout, and I feel that I don't feel Texas is going to cover, but I feel Texas is going to win. But if Creighton pulls it off, I think that's amazing. Roger?
Yeah, I like Texas. I'll take Texas. I just kind of looking over the top 25, and beginning of the year we only had 3 teams in the top 25 out of the Big Ten. Now we got 6.
And remember, I had said that,
Yeah.
Roger. I was
And
like,
Michigan
yeah,
State
the Big-
lost last
yeah.
night, though.
yeah, that was a bad loss for him.
Yeah.
But I was like, the Big Ten just wasn't getting any love
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
Well, Purdue,
Oh, man.
I think Indiana was the highest ranked team,
Yes.
and they haven't really moved from that spot. I think they were 10 or 12 or something like that. And this top 25 I'm looking at now shows them 10th. Well, Purdue goes all the way from unranked up to, was it 5th?
They
Yeah.
went on a tear, though. They
Fifth.
beat Duke and Gonzaga.
And West Virginia.
Right.
Um,
Their big guy is
and then
amazing.
last night, Purdue beat Florida State by 10. Nebraska beat Florida State by 20.
Yes.
Is Nebraska playing better, or they beat Boston College by like 15 last night?
88 to 67 last
Yeah.
night.
So that's 2 ACC teams now that they've beaten by double digits.
And Tamaninga? How do you say
Yeah,
that? He
I-
came out the bench for 21 last night.
Right. Dude, he was a beast.
Again, in the description, I'll leave a link for the recap of that Nebraska-Boston College. It'll go over all of it. But go ahead, James.
The best thing about those 2 games you just mentioned with Nebraska, Florida State, and Boston College, it was the second halves. They went into that last night. They only had a 4 or 5 point lead or less going into halftime. Florida State, they were losing at halftime. Big second halves, and the big thing that we know as Nebraska fans, basketball fans, their second halves have been terrible. They'd go into halftime 7, 8, 9, 12, 14-point leads, and then score 22 points. But yeah, what I'm liking, I don't know what Hoiberg's doing in the locker room. Keep it going, because these second halves, 80 points, that's great.
We mentioned the Big Ten is showing up in the rankings. Friday, you have number 16, Illinois, on the road at number 22, Maryland.
Yes, Maryland's playing really good basketball. Another team that
7-0.
didn't get a lot of love coming in. You can only play who's in front of you.
Yeah.
And Maryland, I think Big Ten. Again, it's early, but they did lose that ACC Big Ten tournament though.
Yeah, Michigan State's ranked 20th with 3 losses.
Yeah,
And
They might go out after this last one.
Yeah, and is North Carolina going to drop
they should
out of the
drop.
top 25 too? Because they got 3
Oh, yeah.
losses. Everybody else is either undefeated or 1 loss. But yeah, we got 2 teams. Yeah,
Now, Maryland's undefeated, but just looking at their last 5, I don't see that tough of
yeah.
a schedule.
Well,
Right.
obviously they're 22, so
Right.
they must be thinking the same thing.
Yep. You have a Louisville and Miami on there. They're teams. But yeah, like I said, you can only play who's in front of them, but they have taken care of business.
Yeah.
And, they're scoring.
And another Friday matchup, number 6 Baylor at number, are they 14 now?
14.
Gonzaga.
Right.
Because they've fallen, because weren't they 2 or 3?
Mm-hmm. Oh, they were number 1.
Oh, they
they-
were
that's right,
preseason
that's
number
right.
1. Right.
Just like last year, just about every single number 1 team has gotten knocked
Yeah,
out.
I don't remember which one, if it was Gonzaga or North Carolina, who was number 1, first game of the year.
It's Gonzaga.
And they lost.
Yeah. Well, they
And
had that
then-
close one against Michigan State and ended up losing to Kentucky a couple of games
Okay,
later.
yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Again, I mentioned the UNL basketball team. Actually, we all mentioned the UNL basketball team last night, beat Boston College at home. And next up, we play Creighton at Creighton, and this is a Sunday.
Yes.
This is on FS1, 3:30, I think, tip-off.
If you look at their next 3 games, it's like murder's row. They got Creighton, and I think they have Illinois, and then another ranked team in there. So they're definitely going to get to see what they're made of.
If you're local, if you get a chance to go check them out, great, because that will be a fun contest to go see. Creighton is a fun team to watch. But if you can't, FS1, 3:30 matchup. Staying in the realm of basketball, just looking at some NBA games. So Monday, the Hawks were at the 76ers. And that was an interesting game. The Hawks actually had their number for a couple of the other matches
Right.
that they had, but the 76ers came out on top. Now, the Hawks were on the road. It was 101-104. I want to talk about this game because they played them close. And the 76ers, without James Harden, I think Tyrese Maxey's might be out as well.
Yep.
They're still playing really good.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they beat the Nets without all three of them, even including Embiid. So, and the best thing for a team is that, like what happened when the Celtics, Marcus Smart went down, you have these other guys step up and you're like, oh, okay, I can trust him. And Philadelphia, I think, is finding out that, we're forced to play these guys. And like, oh, wait a minute, we do have a deeper bench than maybe we thought we had,
And I bring up that Monday game against a very talented Atlanta team because last night the Cavaliers clobbered them. The 76ers fell asleep. So go ahead.
No, yeah, for whatever reason, if it was too many games in a row, whatever. Yeah.
113-85.
Right. Yeah. All of a sudden they couldn't hit the side of a barn.
So that's why the NBA is fun to me. You can have a team play somebody really close. You're always on the road or you're always playing and you play so many games in a week and you may not have the exact same performance you had the night before. So I still feel that the 76ers are in there as far as one of the top, I'll say 10 teams, top potentially 5 teams. And the Cavs are coming up. That's the other reason I wanted to mention because the Cavaliers are getting it done. They're getting it done with 2 7-footers on the floor.
Right. And we had mentioned, early how they were playing extremely well and then they had a little bit of a slump and, then they turn around and put up that game. So, yeah, and again, it's an East battle and, that's a playoff seeding that they can be pushing ahead for right there.
Roger?
Yeah, you guys are talking about the NBA, and I haven't watched any NBA the last week except for just looking at the scores. But I looking at a team that's kind of climbing the board is the Brooklyn Nets. They're only one game away from being potentially 4th place in the Eastern Conference. So I don't know. You guys tell me. What's with this Nets team?
Well, is it the same thing that happened in the realm of baseball? You get rid of your coach, and all of a sudden that wakes up the team.
No.
Because they got rid of the coach. Granted, Kyrie Irving is coming back. He is a great player. He's an odd character, but he can play some great basketball. Kevin Durant has never been doubted as potentially being one of the top 3 or 4 players playing right now. And they have a great cast. So for them to win, it doesn't surprise me. For them to lose surprises me handily when they lose to teams that they shouldn't be losing to.
And that's why I don't look much into this. I know Roger's talking about their game out, but they're only 500. I mean, the number 17 is 11-10. Atlanta's 12-10. Philly 12-10. So it doesn't take a great team right now, and the West ain't much better.
No,
I mean, if you're only 500 team going into the playoffs, are you really that scary? Again, Nets should be beating more teams if you look at just the roster. But this team still has a lot of holes. I don't think they play well together. I still think there's an issue on when the bench comes in and who subs for who. When you look at the top 5 teams in the East, I don't think they match up against them at all, very well at all.
The East had a fun matchup last night. It was in Boston. The Miami Heat came in. They didn't have Jimmy Butler.
Right. Oh, and it showed.
Well, on and off it did. So the Celtics jumped out to almost an 18-point lead to start. And then the Heat went on, I want to say, a 20-something to 3 run.
Oh, ouch.
And they got them back in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the game finished with the Celtics outscoring them. It was 134 to the Heat's 121. Not a lot of defense when you score 250 plus.
Right.
But the offense from a team that supposedly their leader wasn't there, but they have Bam Adebayo is amazing.
Hero
Is amazing.
Yeah.
And the Celtics showed their Achilles heel with that give and go, with that one dribble off of the the pick and roll, they don't pick up people. They don't stay on their hips sometimes. They do, and then they don't. And what baffles me, some of the best coaches out there will take a timeout when they're in the middle of maybe a 10-2 run. Missoula hasn't done that. He will wait until it's like a 20-2 run or an 18-2 run, and then he'll take a timeout, and he says, well, I want to have my players figure it out on their own. I get that, but momentum is real, bud. Momentum is a killer.
And they can figure it out when you don't even have to say, I don't want you to talk to them then. Call your timeout. Have them sit over there and talk to each other to make sure they're on the same page. I totally agree with you, and I've seen it on several different games. Like, what are we waiting on here? You know, obviously they look a little lost on defense, and offensively it's a one pass and score. So call timeout, and even if you just say it as a head coach, say, hey, you know what you're doing wrong, figure it out, and let them sit there as a team, your Tatums, your Smarts, Al Horford. Okay, hey guys, this is what they're doing. We got to make sure, and then let them go back out there. And if it continues, then as a head coach, you put your 2 cents in. But yes, get them off the court so they can talk, because when the game's going, guess what? I can't really have a full-on conversation about what we're doing wrong here.
And it'll be fun because the Celtics play at home again on Friday against the Heat. So it's not a back-to-back. They stay at home, but they have back-to-back games against the Heat.
Yeah, weird
it's one of the schedule is weird in the NBA this year. Friday games to look at, again, is the Heat and Celtics, but also the 76ers play the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are up and down a little bit. The 76ers are up and down a little bit. You mentioned they're just one game above 500. And also the Nuggets play the Hawks on Friday. So those are 2 key games that I feel the 76ers have to win on the road to prove a little dominance. And the Hawks have to win at home, again, to prove a little dominance.
Also, you know, talking about, you know, the Nets and how they're looking, they have Toronto tomorrow. And to me, this could be very well easily a loss for Brooklyn. Obviously, they're at home with Toronto, but don't sleep on the Raptors.
Oh, the Raptors are 11-10.
Really well.
They're still. We've mentioned the 500 teams or the 5-7-5 teams. Middle of the road.
Right.
They're really good. They're professional ball players. They're really, really good. You can't sleep on them because a lot of these teams are still going to get in. We have the playoff, we have the play-in games, but they're still great teams.
Yeah.
You have to watch out for them. They're still professional ball players.
Don't sleep on them.
They're not the Husker basketball team.
Yeah. And another one that's not going to be great to watch, except for watching them lose, is the Lakers go to Milwaukee and get Giannis. So I'm excited for that one.
Lakers won a good one at home last night. They beat the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah,
I'm not saying the Trailblazers are dynamite.
World beaters.
They're without Lillard too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they beat them handily.
Yeah, LeBron had a good game last night. He only shot the ball 12 times. He's like 7 for 12 or 8 for 12. Had 31 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. You know, that's the kind of game that LeBron needs to turn in every night. I mean, he don't need to be shooting the ball a whole lot.
Yeah. When it's almost like Dak when he throws the ball 40 times, Dallas doesn't win very many of those. LeBron needs to realize if I shoot the ball 25 times, we usually don't win those games as of late. Now, granted, early in his career that worked out great. But right now with this team, 12 to 15 shots, if you shoot proficiently, I mean, obviously they still don't have no snipers, 3-point shooters.
I'm putting the blame on the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Beverley is still starting. And he has been like single digit, everything across the board, single digit points, single digit assists. I don't get it.
I love it. Keep it going.
I understand why they're bringing Russell Westbrook off the bench because he is a fire plug.
Mm-hmm.
He's had some bad games, but I feel even Juan Toscano-Anderson would be a better start than Patrick Beverley because at least Juan can score.
And now that Westbrook has accepted his role and is playing really well off the bench.
Who could still get traded.
Right. I don't hear that talk anymore. There's no more of this is Russell's fault, why we're losing. It's all, Russell Westbrook's not doing this, not doing that. It's all got quiet because he's actually playing really well coming off the bench. And they're like, well, who do we point the finger at?
I think it got quiet because they felt that it messed with his head and they need to have some trade equity in him.
Right? Yeah, he has to be good for the people to want him, but we already know he's good, and I think it's just 100% the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no chemistry on that team. Hasn't been the last 3 years.
You guys, I'm going to abruptly change the subject. You guys were talking World Cup soccer. Did you want to mention World Cup soccer, or are there any parting thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm excited they made it to the
They being United States.
the U.S. Yeah, the knockout round. I forgot that word.
Yeah.
Since '08, but like you said, we got to kind of hold back. Oh my gosh, we're gonna take this thing. They scored 1 goal against Iran. Should have been 2 or 3. They scored 1 goal against Wales, who the other teams, England and Iran, scored all over them. We can't score a goal and then all of a sudden go, okay, hey, we're sitting good. No.
Yeah.
You're I think the youngest team in the cup, if not one of them. You got to you got to push it. You got to go out there, play fearless. And, they had one other score, but it was called off for offsides, which we already know how I feel about that call.
Yeah.
So, but you've got to put more biscuits in the basket.
Mm-hmm.
And defensively, yes, tying England with a shutout was amazing. I did not see that coming. That was a great win tie for them. But these other teams, as moving forward, now you're going against teams. You can't win games 1-0. No. You need 2 and 3 goals. I'm excited to see them in this next round. We do have a couple key injuries. Hopefully they heal or at least they come back in. But, man, we got to score goals.
Yeah, you do. And from what little bit I've watched of it, it just seems to me like the U.S., it looks to me like they get tired. And in the knockout stages, you don't have draws. So you play an extra 30 minutes. And if nobody scores in that 30 minutes, then you go to a shootout. I don't see the U.S. I just don't. I don't see the U.S. as being a real threat to the other teams in this tournament.
Right. Yeah. I agreed. I mean, like I said, that the England game was played extremely well. They had a couple shots on goal. They kept England, at bay.
So so England is actually the number 1 seed in the Group B,
right?
And we're the number 2, and we beat the number 1 seed. So if we can play that defensive mindset, I know you don't like the 0-0s until late in the match, but it worked for them, and they were the aggressor that game, so they have to keep it up. But
right, yeah, but they got to find a way to put the ball in the net. I mean, there's so many chances that in that Iran game that the ball was 2 or 3 feet over the goal. I mean, it wasn't even like on the goal. But yeah, World Cup, to be a threat, they have to know, hey, this team can go off for 3 or 4 goals. And right now, it's when you look at the U.S., you just don't see that.
Yeah. Well, talking about world sports, I got to bring up my World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, that's coming up.
That's being played next year. I can't believe it's not more popular than what it is. To me, that is very good baseball.
Where are they playing it this year?
It's not so much that I think because of the U.S. teams, those other teams come to that World Baseball Classic wanting to win.
They do.
This year, from what I've been reading, and I don't know exactly for sure, but the U.S. is actually stepping up and looking like we're getting some people wanting to play in this game that we haven't in the past. I seen Jacob deGrom. I seen Justin Verlander's name. I seen Max Scherzer's name. Those are pitchers that typically did not go to this World Baseball Classic because you report the camp earlier in baseball than you do than the other positions. Pitchers you typically
pitchers
show
and
up,
catchers. Yep.
Yeah, show up a month earlier. So I think that's why they just said, no, we're going to focus on our game. But since we won it the last time we played in this thing, and
it's gotten some more interest.
Of course, Verlander and Scherzer are 39 and 40 years old. They're probably thinking, you know what? I'll go get ready for my game pitching in this because I see how great a baseball this is, and them guys are out there to win. And just looking at that U.S. roster, Mike Trout, Mookie Betts in the outfield, and I said Bryce Harper, but I think he had Tommy John, so
he's
not.
out.
Yeah,
yep.
he's out. but this roster looks loaded. And then I seen, I don't know if it's Venezuela or Puerto Rico, but it's Yadier Molina and who's the other guy that just recently retired. But they're both going to represent their country in it too, and I'm thinking,
Oh wow.
it looks very interesting so far.
And
And I'll get some more some more info on it, and we'll bring it up in the coming weeks. But I've always loved this World Baseball Classic. It's I think it's just great baseball.
I'm just glad the U.S. is finally taking it serious.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you wouldn't get these guys. They were the next step down. They're like, hey, yeah, we want to go play in this. But now they're realizing, yeah, there's a lot of talents that really good, warm up to the season.
I don't have the starting lineups or anything like that, but I'm going to leave a link in the description for the 4 cities, for the venues that they have. Tokyo, Phoenix, Miami, and Taichung. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not, but those are the 4 cities that are going to host the World Baseball Classic in 2023. So it's going to be it's fun, and I didn't know about it until Roger started talking about it at work a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And it's a great little.
It is,
Yeah.
and the very first 2 years, which happened in 2003 and 2007, Japan won both years, and it was awesome to watch them the way they played the baseball, because they played it like the old 1980s baseball. They played small ball,
Just right.
hit and run, hit and run,
Yeah.
hit and run, and they are good. And
Yep.
and if you ever see it's called the Nippon League. It's Japan baseball. That is very. The product of that game is good. Them Japan baseball players they're fun to watch.
Yeah,
they are.
they're studiers of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like we said, come playoff time, you want small ball.
Yeah.
The teams that can manufacture a run, just to have one little run, little momentum, a little 2-out rally, yeah, it's huge.
Yep.
Any other parting thoughts? Anything else come to mind, gentlemen?
So Thanksgiving, Dallas, I'm going to toot the Dallas horn here a little bit. Dallas Giants became the most watched regular season game ever. So now they got the Colts coming up, right? Sunday night, I think, or Monday night, one of the two. I think it's Sunday night. They didn't flex them out of that. Normally, you flex in a better game because obviously the Colts are not very good. Dallas is. You would put that game back. This is that time of year. But I think they're going for the viewership on the Monday night game and leaving the Dallas Colts as Sunday night. I don't know. I can't remember which one. I think it's Sunday night. But they're going to play that Sunday night game instead of flexing it out. And I think one of the reasons was the most watched regular season game was Giants-Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
Colts Cowboys is the 7:20 Sunday night game.
Sunday night. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of being flexed out, for a Miami 49ers game or something, they're leaving that in there. And I think it's the Cowboys and the ratings own it.
Yeah. I don't know why we didn't bring this up earlier, but now that he brought it back to the NFL, I'll just say it. But what do you guys think of the games last week when 2 of the games came down to teams going for the 2-point conversions and going for the win? They both made it and both won.
Right.
Jaguars and Chargers.
Yeah. And what are the analytics on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have overtime. You typically you kick for the tie, and but I mean, if it was still a 20-point extra point, you think they do that? I don't know.
Yeah. I like the Jaguars play that they called. I mean, was a great play, especially Trevor Lawrence still being young. Nice, not necessarily a safe throw, but a legit throw that he can make him, But to come back and win the game like they did, like I said, the guy fumbles it, the running back fumbles it inside of 20, they score. They get the ball back, and Trevor Lawrence coming in on his own, starting to make some noise.
Yeah.
They got a ways to go. But, yeah, I love going for the 2. And then we had another overtime game, the Raiders. First play, they run the ball, 80-yard touchdown run for the score, so the game's over just like that.
Yeah, in overtime, you mean?
Right, in
Yeah.
overtime, yeah. So there was several games down to the wire, either could have went overtime or, So
Yeah.
I love the going for 2 when the coaches says, hey, yeah, we're going to do this.
Shows big cojones.
Right. And the team says, oh, they have faith in us. Let's do
and
this.
that Ravens with Justin Tucker. I mean, You know his history.
Mm-hmm.
He's like 66 consecutive field goals made in fourth quarter and overtime.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I mean,
He hadn't missed.
He hadn't missed. Well, he came in and kicked a 67-yarder in that game, and of course,
Just
he
came up
missed.
short.
And I'm like, they shouldn't even count that towards that 66.
Thank you.
You know
That's
what I mean?
said.
Yeah, it's like, man, he's just trying to win the game for his team,
Right.
and now his record goes down or whatever.
And by the way, that field goal was right down the middle, or maybe just off center, but it was on line.
yeah,
Just in a dome, I think that makes it. But being outside in the elements, it just died.
yeah, reading that Justin Tucker stats, it's just amazing.
He
how
is
good
the
he
GOAT.
Is.
Yeah.
He is.
I was hoping he made it, but the weather was a huge factor.
Right.
Because he came up like 10 yards short.
Yeah.
And I agree. If it would have been indoors, he would have made it easily.
Mm-hmm.
Gentlemen, it's been fun.
Yep.
And watch some sports. We've got some great stuff going on. We have volleyball starting tonight. And again, I'm going to leave a lot of links in the description for all the stuff we were talking about. And go watch some sports.
See you.
Thanks, guys.